the reason for this video is I wanted to know how long it would take and kind of how they would turn out if I did a wood burning sign versus a Dremel sign versus a router sign. I've been making Dremel signs for a very long time, and I just recently got the router, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But something else I do enjoy is the wood burning. So let's talk about kind of the mistakes I made first. So the first mistake I made was specifically with the Dremel'd one, as well as the router one. I used the wrong side of the wood. I wanted to use the nicer side of this plywood. Typically I wouldn't do these on plywood, but I wanted to make the same kind of material for all three versions. And I ended up just doing it on the wrong side. So that's not a good start. Lengthwise, the wood burning one took the longest, easily. And that's mostly because I trace out the design first and then I burn it right on the wood. Now, in the past, I've made larger wood signs using the Dremel and using the painter's tape with the gluing the template right on it. I've used that on the larger signs and it's turned out great. I don't know if I would do that next time for smaller signs. I think next time I might even try and do the trace right on the wood, because then specifically even with the router itself, you get a better idea of how far down into the sign you're using the router bit, specifically like the 60-degree angle or the 30-degree angle, whichever one you want to use, depends on the sign. But you get a better idea how far down you're going into the piece of wood when you're doing it right on the piece of wood as opposed to through tape and through a template. So I might try just tracing the template right on the wood next time I make a sign this small. So the wood burning one, very relaxing. It definitely takes the longest, and I think it turned out great when it comes to finishing, like painting it and then sanding off the paint to kind of do the dark lines versus the revealed wood. You don't have to do that with the wood burning, but that doesn't take too long when you're sanding off the template and finishing. Let's talk about the Dremel one. So the Dremel one, Dremel signs in general, I've been doing Dremel signs for a while now, and it's a slow process. It can be very relaxing when you do it. But I just found it didn't work very well for a detail sign like this. And I don't think it's because of the Dremel. I think it's the Dremel router kit that I've been using. It's mostly made out of plastic, and when you set the stop works a little bit, but when you're locking it, you're only locking it on one side of the router base. So in a way, you're kind of Dremeling on an angle. And that really kind of comes out well on the outline here. I didn't get very deep. I was getting a lot of burning, and I think that's mostly because my Dremel bits are starting to get up there in age. And just even doing straight lines, I was having issues with even a brand new Dremel bit. So I think the Dremel worked great for my larger signs in the past, but I don't think it would work for this. And now that I have a very powerful Bosch router, I find that I'm having absolutely no issues getting through wood with that. So let's talk about the router sign. So it turned out pretty well. Like I already mentioned earlier, I think next time if I stencil the template right on the wood, similar to how I do it for the wood burning, I would get a better idea of how deep I'm going. So for example, in the W here in the walls, I did route that out because I tried to do the fine detail that is in the wood burning version. I did try to do that on this, but I just found while I was turning away that template and the painter's tape, I had no idea how it was going to turn out. And so that's why I kind of just left it for these words, but then I did kind of fill in the W down here. And my lines weren't as straight. I think next time I would use maybe some kind of ruler of some sort to kind of run the router against so that my lines will be straighter. But in examples like the little cursive style writing, I found that really came through well with the router. It's just a matter of, do you trust going through the tape as well as the template and making sure that you're not going too deep that the words are getting mixed up. I use the 60-degree angle bit to do this, and so it very much meets at a point here. I have done a different sample right over here of just basically a 1/4 inch as well as a 60-degree angle bit to do these words and then the deeper words here. And this is kind of an example of painting it first, taping on the template, routing out the words, and then taking the tape off. If I were to stick the template right on this, then obviously I would get leftover residue from the glue, putting the template on, and then I will be able to do something like this. So a template works well for this, and I think for something like that next time, I might just try stenciling it on. So that's it for the battle. I think my next sign, I'm definitely going to be using the router again and using the angled bits to do some of the smaller, finer words, as well as using maybe the more upcut style bits to do an outline. And we'll see how that turns out. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.